assessment often fail to accommodate diverse learners, particularly the students who are deaf or hard of hearing. What adjustments are necessary to make assessment more accessible? And my other question is, what steps should Pakistan take to integrate disability inclusive assessments in the mainstream education, and how can adaptive technologies support this shift? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to SZABIST and ITA for this opportunity, and thank you all for attending. So yes, I can speak with some confidence towards the deaf segment of the society and education. I cannot speak with confidence to other disability groups, so just a little clarity there. Now, for the deaf specifically, if you think of them not as a disability group, but as a minority language group that happens to speak a different language, then we realize that all they need to succeed in life is sign language, Pakistani Sign Language. And once we understand that part, then we realize, just like if you could be the best educator, you could be the best students, the best parents in the world, but you can't go to China if you don't know you speak Chinese and be able to communicate with them. You can't take a test in Chinese, even though you might be the smartest person. So this is kind of what we've been advocating and supporting, is that, yes, as long as the tools, these assessments, the education system, the information is provided in the language of the deaf community, then they can succeed in life. There are more challenges. It's not as simple as that. There are more challenges than that we have to overcome. But it's really, all we did for the ICANN and ACER tests was to make it available in sign language, make it a little bit more visual, and make sure that that the deaf students who are tested have it available in their language. Now, this is very true specifically for those who are severe to profoundly deaf. Just like eyesight, there are many levels. You might just need a little thin eyeglass, you might need a very thick glass, and sometimes eyeglasses don't help or benefit you. Same way with deafness. So there's mild, moderate deafness, and then there's severe to profound deafness. So those with mild to moderate deafness can go to a mainstream school. They can, with very few accommodations, very few changes in accommodations for the classroom, they can succeed in a mainstream setting. Those who have severe to profound deafness would require some sort of Pakistan Sign Language adaptation or interpretation in order to succeed and be included and contributed. The second question was adaptive tools?
Adaptive technology.
Adaptive technology. So again, the adaptive technology is, there's cochlear implants, there's hearing aids, but those are very expensive. A cochlear implant is the price of a new car. How many people can afford a new car? And that's just the implants, ongoing speech therapy, repairs, upgrades. That becomes pretty much like feeding and raising an elephant, according to many families who have children with implants. So the adaptive technology that we're looking for is making sure that sign language is available. You may not know, but American Sign Language is the third most used language in the USA after English and Spanish. It's taught in schools. A lot of people take it as electives. In the UK, it's the fourth most used language after English, Gaelic, and Scottish. I have to look that one up. And over 50% of the countries in the world have legalized and recognized sign language as one of the official languages. Pakistan is not there yet, but this is one of the goals that 𝗩𝗏 and I think our partners are looking to achieve, and have this recognition at the government level to protect and research Pakistani Sign Language. I think that answers most of your questions.
Thank you. My next panelist question is Dr. Ricardo Sabates. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, sir. Sabates, sorry, because I asked the people in Canada, America, and Germany, and some of the literature teachers, each one gave different name. Then I Googled. Then again, I got the wrong name. How do you pronounce? Sabates. Sorry, sir. Okay.
It's Sabates.
Sabates, okay. Dr. Ricardo, I have two questions for you. Based on your research, What international best practices can Pakistan adopt or adapt to ensure assessments are more inclusive for the marginalized learners? And my second question is, what policy reforms are needed to embed inclusive assessment approaches in Pakistan's education system sustainability?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for SZABIST University and ITA for the invitation to be part of this panel. Sorry for the slight delay at the beginning. It's the classic, the computer didn't want to turn on. I'm very pleased to be here to talk about some of the experiences that there are at the global scale. And it's for me been a pleasure to be have the opportunity to collaborate with ITA in many of the issues that Baela discussed in terms of the ASER tool, the inclusion of the Washington group in the ASER tool in Pakistan, and how that has led to the scalability and adoption by the government in the school census, and that's very it's very important for the education community to hear that Pakistan has taken those steps. So it's been quite a journey. So if I just reflect a little bit from an academic position in terms of assessments, I just want to think about what are the purposes? Why are we assessing? And I think it is important to go back about the purposes of assessments, because the reasons why we assess then can take us into different directions, and they can be used for different purposes. And this is another aspect that I want to reflect a little bit later on. So, are we assessing because we want to demonstrate the scale of the problem? And as you know, ASER has been at the forefront of advocacy and demonstrating the scale that we have of the problem on learning in schools? Or are we assessing because we want to improve the effectiveness of the school and the education systems? So we need an assessment that helps us to improve effectiveness. Or are we assessing because we are assessing the quality of the education the education system, and in this sense is used for accountability purposes? Or are we assessing because the teachers and educators need to identify the need to support children? So what are the needs of children, and therefore we're assessing for targeting purposes? Or are we assessing because we want to track which are the groups which are systematically disadvantaged? In this sense, we just hear our panelists talking about those who have profound deafness, or other children who are at disadvantage, and therefore we are assessing because we want to understand disadvantage, and in that sense is for equity purposes. Or we are assessing because it's a way in which the system requires to provide opportunities to go to the next levels of education, because there's not there's not sufficient education for all in terms of reaching university, and therefore there is an assessment for selection. So we have different purposes of education, and all these purposes of education take us to design assessments which are fit for that purpose. And the issue with this assessment is that whether they can be recognized at the levels of governments to be able to then be adopted. So in the international arena, we have a number of assessments and types of assessment that have emerged in the last years. And in fact, there's been an exponential assessments that have come out. We have international learning assessments. We have assessments like PISA, the program student assessment. We have PASE, we have SAC. Many of these are that have been to enable countries. And they're also trying to be done to enable comparisons over time, and they're trying to use representative samples. It comes number of questions. I mean, they are to be, still discussed, such as that we're going to use, which an equitable way of testing. Is a particular question biased towards the population of children who are in Europe as opposed to the population of children that are in Pakistan, India, or in other countries, for example, in sub-Saharan Africa? So the inclusion of the knowledge and what knowledge is included is a very important question that needs to be addressed in these types of tests. We also have national learning assessments, which are tailored to the national curriculum. And many of these are the ones that are used by governments to inform policy. We also have the high-stakes examinations that are used often to be able to progress from one level to another. In the case of China, there's the 𝗤𝗀𝘀𝗰𝗵 examination. In the case of the UK, there are A-levels examinations, and these are the kind of examinations that they're used for high-stakes examinations. Many have formative examinations that are used in the. But importantly, I think for me is these community-based assessments and what has been the journey in the internet that has 𝗤𝗀 ITA in Pakistan, 𝗤𝗀 Pakistan, 𝗤𝗀 India, and many other partners of what is now called the PAL network, the People's Actions Learning. And the journey that is taken has been incredibly important, because at the beginning, and here, Baela, maybe we can discuss later, because you are at the forefront of the experience, it was mainly for advocacy purposes. It was mainly to say something is going on here, right? And the tool itself, it was very, very well designed. It has to be an assessment that was had all the properties that one wanted for an assessment. It has to be equitable, it has to be accessible, it had to really measure those foundational skills. And it was done in a very innovative way, not to take time away from the children's, both in their schools or in their activities that they were having. But then it led to thinking, okay, given that now we know the scale of the problem, what are we doing about it? And this is where it was coming to the action. And the action became important. And ITA has been moving to very innovative ways of supporting learners, those who are out of schools, for girls, accelerated programs, accelerated innovations. But always the question is, how are these going to be scaled up? ITA can, and many other of our innovators can reach the few, but we wanted to reach the thousands. We wanted to reach everybody in the nation. And I think that is important because there's a very important partnership with the government. And here is to move to the government thinking this is very important, given that you have innovated by including the Washington group in 𝗤𝗀 and demonstrated the benefits. Then how can we do this at a scale? How can we take this nationally? How can we put it in our systems? So I think that is an important question that potentially we can reflect both with experiences of ITA in Pakistan and other experiences that I personally been leading with group members from the PAL network. I just came back from Tanzania, where this is a very important question, the role of the government in enabling these innovations to be part of the systemic change that is needed. And I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make one short comment. What is coming out very boldly for Sindh and the whole of the country is that we are now in the midst of a polycrisis. The crisis of education is not alone anymore. The crisis of poverty, the crisis of gender exclusion of the worst kind, the crisis of health, nutrition, everything. So, especially when we are talking about inclusion, disabilities, and I mean the whole spectrum of the inclusions, we today need to have a multi-sectoral approach. no matter if SELD or SCF says, we want to do this, but they still need the support from health or from the Department of Empowerment or people with, of Sindh and so on. So I think it's important for us to consider that if we go for doing something, it needs multiple sectors to come together. Otherwise, on its own, we will never be able to do that. And that includes the progressive social protection sector, whether it is BISP or the Sindh Social Protection Authority. So I'm just wanted to leave that with you, because these are complex matters, and complex matters need solutions that are holistic and comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, now the questions to our fourth panelist, Ms. Shahpara Rizvi, MD, Deputy MD of Sindh Education Foundation. I'm going to ask two questions. One is about government-led initiatives for inclusive assessment, and that is, what effort is the Sindh Education Foundation making to integrate inclusive assessment frameworks in public school? The other is, how can we equip the teachers with the right skills to conduct and interpret assessments that cater to the diverse learning needs? Over to you.
Hello, yes. Thank you so much for giving me and Sindh Education Foundation this opportunity to be on this platform and talk about inclusive education. So Sindh Education Foundation is a semi-autonomous organization that works under the government with 100% government funding. Our mandate is to open schools, provide access to education where there are no government school. And this model works on the public-private partnership model, where we have partners and individuals and organizations who work with us, and we give them per child subsidy cost. So coming to this topic of today, I will continue from where Dr. Ricardo was mentioning about what is the purpose of assessment. For us as a foundation, we believe that the assessment that we have is for learning purpose. It is not of learning that we conduct. We conduct in a way, this is kind of self-accountability, where we see the outcomes of our own initiatives, where we see where performance is going upwards or is it declining. So for us, when we conduct assessment, it is not about a child declared as pass or fail, but we consider the administrators, the policy makers, the overall school managers to be succeeding or failing. So the assessment mechanism that we have in Sindh Education Foundation, it's not for the progression purpose. Definitely, we conduct assessment like SAT, standardized assessment test, but the purpose is to gauge the performance of overall portfolio. And in the past, we used to conduct 100% assessment of all the children, but over the years, the magnitude has increased. Now we have over 1 million students. So we go for sample test, but we do not have a mechanism where we can assess children with different needs. So not only the children with special needs, even the children who have some kind of mental or emotional problem, we do not cater that in our assessment. But the purpose of conducting the assessment of the portfolio, the strategy that we are talking about, should be to assess your own performance, like self-accountability, to see where your initiatives are benefiting the children. The data is available throughout Pakistan, and we have witnessed over the years, especially post-COVID, that number of out-of-school children has declined. And there can be various reasons. There are different research reports. One is also by Pakistan Alliance for Maths and Science Society, which says that the majority of the children who are out of school were never enrolled. So when we are talking about inclusive approach and what are we catering to? Are we catering to all the requirements, the needs of children? We were talking about, like Madam Baela mentioned, about transgenders, about females, about minorities. They are all being catered in SEF school. We also have some schools, 300 schools for special need children. There are around 3,000 children there being managed by our partners. But we do not conduct paper pencil tests for them. Our portfolio assessment is different for that stream. But overall, we believe that, education that we used to call, there was a time that it is a public good. Just like your defense of the country is your public good. Whether you need it or not, it is there for you. But if we look at education in today's time, it is no more a public good. Because for anything to be called a public good, it should be non-excludable. It should be non-rivalrous. But is education a public good? I slightly disagree, because we do not have access to education across Pakistan. There are not enough schools after primary. We don't have all elementary, secondary, higher secondary. There are total 285 universities. So we can imagine that the progression that should be there, it ends up when a child drops out after primary grade school, because there are not enough secondary schools. So if we start from 1948, we know all the slogans that education is important for all, and the government is responsible to provide education from 1948 till Article 25A. Yes, access to education is important, mandatory, a citizen can claim, but there is one thing which is missing in all the policy making, in all the decision making. We have all the ticks on our checklist list of things to do, but what we are missing over the years now is the child, the care and attention that needs to be given to the child, and the love. All the Freud's needs, we have not catered that. So if you talk to the policy makers, whether or not they involve the parents in the policy decision, whether or not they involve the children in their policy decisions, why they drop out, there are very few co-curricular activities available. The out-of-school number is increasing. So what the government is now doing, the question is, so we have been asked to prepare a 5-year plan, like, in the past also we have been doing that, but this time the focus is to cater to all the formal, non-formal side of learners who have missed out the opportunity, and to cater the children's needs, so that they come back to school with other activities. So SEF is also starting from the academic year, that in our schools we are emphasizing more on project-based learning, and we are also adding marks in our curriculum for the co-curricular activities. So if a child's needs, like if a child is not fond of writing, child should not be, penalized for that. But that will, for us, be important when we conduct the portfolio assessment. It will not be, again, for the purpose of declaring a child pass or fail, because that assessment purpose, is quite redundant now. Yes.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
So, sorry, the next part was the
teacher training.
Yes. So SEF is facing a major challenge when it comes to our teacher hiring, retaining, and their training, because our annual turnover is really high. The teachers are hired by the partners, and whenever there is a government job announcement in the market, our teachers quit. And they find a pakki nokri, and they do not want to work on the contract. So we continuously train them. Annually, we train around 7,000 to 8,000 teachers within the given budget that government provides us. And when we train them from, pre-service, pedagogy, how to manage the classroom, the environment. And by the time we think that now they are ready and the results will start to come, they quit. So even this year, in our monitoring report, it revealed that 60% of the teachers are new. And when we talk about development of tool, development of tool is a very advanced stage for the assessment. But the teacher when they come as a, they look for the transitional jobs until they find some more career path, better career path, because teaching is again sometimes not considered as a career. So in the public sector, maybe in the private schools, here many professors are sitting, but I'm talking about the experiences that we face. So they look at it as a transition. They come, they spend 2-3 years, they find better jobs, and they quit. But in our modules, when we prepare the teacher, we prepare them for the mental well-being of the child, to take care of the child, even little things. If I go in an assessment room, I saw a child, he was attempting the paper, and he was standing continuously for 3 hours. And when I asked the child to sit, he said, I can't sit because my seat and my desk, it is distant. I can't, write properly. And the teacher didn't have any idea to at least ask the child to sit on her chair. So these little things, you have to be empathetic to understand. We are talking about major disabilities, but these are the little things that as a teachers, we need to understand. So we are inculcating those through our training, through our manuals, in our teaching process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I have a question for all the panelists. What is the call to action? If there is only one key change you would like to see in how assessments are designed and used, what it would be? The next one, what role do partnership between academia, government, and the civil society play in ensuring assessment data translates into meaningful action? The first question is that what key action change would you like to do? The question goes to everyone. Start from Dr. Ricardo. Sir?
Thank you. I think for me, the first and most important action that I would like to see in assessment is about the assessment that is used for learning and is what is happening in the classroom. I think that's been the key. The teachers are at the heart of learning, and we continue to see that as teachers have been trained in many of the tools, as Madam Shahpara has indicated, if these teachers are able to support the children, if these teachers are able to show empathy, if these teachers are able to show culturally relevant pedagogies, which again, ITA and many other innovators in Pakistan have adapted and adopted for the realities, for their classrooms, I think we can see significant improvements in foundational skills. So for me, that's the most important change, is that the assessments are culturally relevant. They're assessments that are used for the teachers to understand and to be able to adapt their pedagogical approaches in the classroom, because the teachers are the ones that are spending the time, most of the time with the children. Sorry. So that would be my initial response.
Sir, Aaron.
Thank you. I think especially for, as I think Ma'am Baela mentioned, the identification of disabilities and the referral pathways are both very important. And I'm actually on a committee that's working on doing this. They're testing it in 10 mainstream schools right now, and with the hope to be able to launch this across the country. One of the additional things I'd like is, these disparate organizations that are doing these things about inclusion work together. There's a lot of people who are duplicating efforts that I see in this space, and I'd like this to be all kind of put in one central place so everyone learns from each other.
Thank you. Ma'am Shahpara?
For me, I think most important thing would be not to assess the child's learning outcomes in terms of rote memorization. It should be of a kind of a personality test, how much a child is familiar with the environmental needs, even empathy can be gauged. We started with the Caring for Life initiative, and the core message was this universe is to be shared by all. And through some tools, we were teaching children to be more empathetic and friendly towards the environment, not to harm animals and not to cut the trees was the message. So overall, a child's behavior needs to be assessed. It should not be based upon their learning outcomes, one-time, two-time assessment, but participation in sports and mental and physical, all areas should be covered for the self-evaluation purposes, and not just to retain or punish or penalize a child. And what was the second question?
The partnership.
Yes, so I, from SEF's platform, would like to volunteer that our assessment data, our portfolio information is available to all researchers. If you want to take our data from us, if you want any information, you want to conduct your research, we are open for any kind of collaboration with you. Thank you.
Ms. Baela?
Thank you. After this very rich discussion, what is really coming out is that this movement that has begun to seriously make inclusion mainstream, that movement has to persist and grow. Because as we've seen, that we went through a first round of the annual school census in which we did have the tools, but there are many gaps still which need to be. So we need to work deeper, harder, and a bit bolder. So the annual school census reports need to have a separate section of what really came out. But the next part, which is even more important, we collect data, but then the teachers never hear what happened with that data. So we need that gap between data and practice back into the classrooms to have a much shorter loop, so that the data that is gathered, and whether it is the SZABIST students or teachers or faculty and others who collect, how does it go back in the hands of the teachers with the practical support on teacher training, etc. And what Shahpara said also, and others, all of us are saying, is the attitude. The issues of tolerance, of being able to cope with diversity and differentiation, to being able to support and having schools and classrooms of tolerance, of care. That is so, those are fundamental, basic things. And that acceptance is so important, because that's half the battle won. Our problem is, by the way, and those challenges, especially for children with disabilities or even other extreme groups with extreme marginalization, is the low acceptance at home, in the community, and in the classrooms. So that part is so important. And the third part, which is how do you ensure that all the partners who have to work to help children like that, and teachers also. Teachers are not alone. Teachers must be part of learning teams. And that whole team approach, they also need support, not just going. And remember, in Sindh, 36,000 schools in Sindh are all 1 and 2 teacher schools under SELD. 1 and 2 room schools. Can you imagine the kind of workload that is on them, and then having to deal with this? So please be mindful that there is, it's not a good situation, but there the attitudes do matter. And finally, how do we keep looking at research and innovation in a very progressive manner? Today, as I said, please don't undermine it. AI and technology is making a huge difference in terms of making solutions more equal. Anyone can actually, if they knew how to. If they knew how to, and they knew how to safeguard themselves so that they're not using it wrongly. But we need to continue to do research to inform actions, but not do a research and after 5 years, then say, wo research mein kya hua tha? Acha wo kya? It's too late. That child has moved on and perhaps is suffering. So we'll have a society again more unhappy, more sad, more excluded. And I tell you, if Pakistan deserves anything, it's for its people to be happy and positive, so that they can learn better and with more tolerance and more acceptance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Baela. Ms. Baela has actually concluded the session, and she given the total summary, but she has suggested one question which is not in the script. The question goes to Dr. Ricardo. Okay, she just told me to ask about it. Dr. Ricardo, would you like to collaborate with SZABIST faculty, especially in the teacher training of assessment, inclusive assessment techniques or mechanism? Sir?
Absolutely, anytime. We'd love to collaborate. We have been honored to collaborate with ITA for many years, and we continue to do it with our colleagues from academia. So,
Thank you so much, sir. So at the end, I would again like to conclude with a quote given by 𝗚𝗏𝘀. Sometimes it's not the student who's failing the assessment. It might be that the assessment is failing to fully assess the abilities of the student. Thank you once again for each and everybody to be patient and to be the part of this program. Thank you everyone, all the panelists, for the beautiful awareness session you've given to all of us, because we all aware of 1 year, yani final exam and mid-year exam and the assessment and assignments. But thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank Seher, Saeed, who's put all of this together and curated it, and they are sitting far away in Lahore, but they worked very hard to make sure that everyone was part of this happening. Thank you.
Okay, now have the audience question. Is there any?
My question is from Madam Shahpara. Since you belong to 𝗚 Education Foundation, so I think it is very appropriate platform to ask you one thing, and that is, all the time in assessment rooms, examination halls and all, we make feel, handicaps that you are dependent on others, no? Whereas we do have a lot of, advanced technologies. For example, if somebody is unable to write, right? Or somebody has a sight problem. So why not they can record the answers instead of somebody comes and help them to write down the answers for them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That is a very pertinent question. So, you see, 𝗚 Education Foundation has its 2,800 schools, and we are very flexible, we are very adaptable, we are working on technology since 2018. And conducting assessment through digital is one of our future initiatives. I cannot make any commitment at the moment that how long will it take, but yes, that is part of our future planning. We are working on technology.